content over everything.
I'm the second eldest of 5. Grew up in a mansion in North Yorkshire. From the outside, it was a picture book setting. Sorry, my throat's getting all tight. Although I have some memories of abuse from that period, the abuse became extreme when my mother left my father when I was 5 and relocated us with my boyfriend, with her boyfriend, a heroin addict, to London into a squat off Charing Cross Road. Our mother's abuse became extreme. We were abused on a daily basis. She took great pleasure in causing chaos, distress, pain and terror. We went to bed in fear and we woke up in fear. At 43 years old, I still dread night times. I fear falling asleep and I wake at the slightest sound. My brother and sister began wetting the bed on a daily basis. My brother and sister began wetting their beds every night. She'd stuff socks and underwear into our mouths so that the neighbours could hear our screams, wrap us in their urine-soaked sheets and tear into us like an animal, kicking, biting and punching us so hard that she drew blood. I tried my best to protect them, but I did not stand a chance. I am still haunted by the fear on their faces and the terror in their eyes. I have destroyed myself for years, carrying the guilt for not protecting them. I felt it was my fault for not being brave enough to speak out and stop what was happening to us. We were clearly damaged children. We'd often go to school with concussion, black eyes, bite marks and bruises. I was told off by the teachers for not concentrating and falling asleep at my desk. In first year juniors, I was slapped around the face by my teacher for lying as to why we were late and what the marks were. But no one ever questioned why, and I was too afraid to tell. I couldn't concentrate in class. It was full of children being children, something I couldn't relate to at all, as I'd long become an adult. Other kids walked home laughing and chatting. We walked home in silence as we knew what we were going back to. How many children walk home in silence today? My mother had us around paedophiles and drug addicts. She and her partner would take me and my little sister, that's 2 children out of 5, to their dealer's house. It was full of men on drugs. I was hypervigilant as a child, but all memories from in that house are hazy. It would be daylight when we went in and nighttime when we came out, and I would not know where the day had gone. As a kid, I always tried to please my mother, make her love me and stop her from hurting us. As an adult, I tried to keep the family together, organising family Christmases, holidays and surprise birthday parties. I thought keeping us together, we could heal. I thought I could fix my mum. I had no idea what Stockholm Syndrome was. At different times, both my brother and I sought resolve. Sorry, my brother's adopted. My brother's adopted. They adopted him into the family. Damn. At different times, both my brother and I sought resolve from my mother. My brother, after trying to kill himself at university, unable to live with the trauma, and myself after 2.5 years of trauma therapy. I was dying inside. We needed answers. We needed why. She gave us nothing, leaving us no choice but to seek justice and accountability through the criminal justice system. After 2.5 years of investigation, our mother went to court with 8 charges of child abuse against her. She could afford the top law chambers in the country. I was cross-examined by my mother's defence for 2 whole days. In turn, the public prosecutor asked me just one question, leaving me unable to give the truth and full context to the jury. 8 key witnesses and vital evidence was not submitted in court. Due to lack of evidence, the sexual abuse charges did not go through. I was told that if I mentioned the sexual abuse on the stand, that the whole case was liable to be thrown out of court. Under oath, my mother admitted to biting the children. Under oath, my mother claimed that she'd accidentally slammed my head in the door. She claimed she'd accidentally fallen forwards towards my little brother, forcing his feces into his mouth. She admitted to biting the children, attacking these children, plural. Through her own admission, my mother said that there had been a sexual investigation when we were little. I watched on in shock from the public gallery. There were no further questions from the prosecutor and nothing further was said. Abusing her influential position of power, our big sister Alice Wilson, Greenpeace executive, presented herself as a trustworthy and credible witness. She took the stand in defence of our mother. Standing 3 metres away from my brother and I in the public gallery, she claimed that we were lying, that there had never been any abuse, that there was never even a raised voice in the house. She claimed that I was a crazed drug addict with false memory syndrome and that my brother was bitter because he was adopted and has a different skin tone to the rest of the family. She said that's why we were pressing charges against our mother. She also had to admit that my mother recently had signed all her properties and finances into her name. I have never hidden the fact that at times in my life I've turned to drugs in order to suppress the painful memories from my childhood. All 5 of us siblings have gone off the rails at stages in our lives through drink, drugs and abusive relationships, including my big sister. All textbook behaviours of abused children. My sister knew what our mother was doing to us. She knew that drugs were being taken and sold. She knew the kind of men that were around her little sisters. She didn't protect us then and was covering for my mother and is covering for my mother now. She knew the horrors that were happening in that house. Watching my sister take the stand and cover for my mother. So watching my sister lie and take the stand covering for our mother was like watching a nun covering up for a paedophile priest. The jury can only deliberate their verdict on the information presented to them. They were completely unaware of the 8 key witnesses and vital evidence that the public prosecutor refused to submit in court. Our mother was acquitted of all charges. The scream I screamed out in court as our mother was cleared of all 8 charges of abuse was the scream of the oh-so-present child in me, silenced for all these years. Silenced again as an adult trying to give that child a voice. Alongside many other victims of abuse, my brother and I have been failed by the criminal justice system. We have suffered a gross miscarriage of justice. I was receiving support from victim support. I was receiving help from victim support during the trial, but when our mother got off, and I desperately needed advice and support in filing a complaint in order to appeal for a judicial review, I was told that they could no longer help. As my mother was cleared in a court of law, and in the eyes of the law, she is innocent, and we are no longer considered victims of a crime. There is no support out there. My mother's partner has still not been investigated by the police. I gave the police his full name and he told them that he is now professor teaching young adults at the university. I do not believe for 1 minute that my little sister and I are the only children that he used for his game. They said they could not locate him. Recently, a private investigator traced his full name and address in under 20 minutes. The investigation was 2.5 years long. Due to my father's work with Pink Floyd, our case was widely covered in the press. It is shocking that it takes the heading Pink Floyd in order for the press to report on a serious case of child abuse. All child abuse should be front page news. We must lift the taboo on speaking about these horrific crimes ruining children's lives. I no longer feel ashamed or that I have to hide from my childhood. The determination I had to survive as a child is what gave me the strength that I have to continue today. Many of us grew up in horrors unspeakable, still haunting us as adults today. Little kids cruelly having our innocence torn from us. Childhood was about surviving. We cannot change the past, but we can break the cycle. We must all invest in our children, love, nurture and protect them. I would like to, my daughter couldn't be here today, she's on holiday with her boyfriend, but she'd really like me to read a poem that she wrote me, if you don't mind. Sorry to keep you all. I'm proud of my daughter and I'm proud of myself. I've managed to grow to break the cycle of abuse that I grew up in. My mother is beautiful. I'll try not to blog. My mother is beautiful, but to stop at beautiful would be a mistake if I was to forget the rest of her. Because my mother is beautiful. She has been broken like glass, but her pieces have formed a beautiful mosaic. She is the ocean, relentless and deep, that coming back to the shore that pushes her away. She is the most soothing parts of aloe vera that grew through the drought and dryness only to produce healing and comfort. She is a mountain unmoved by unbelief, steadfast in the face of a storm. She is magnolia whose sweet scent drifts down on late summer evenings and whose presence shows that she's strong. She is a mangrove whose roots grow deep where others would drown. She is a rainbow who's all the colours of the world. She is a garden bringing life to this tired landscape. She is the flare of the night, a rescue of the lost. My mother is a hospital for the broken and the light for the tossed aside. She is tequila who sometimes burns and she tells the truth, but will never fail to make you feel better in the end. She is a pen whose limit of creation is only its creator, and well, her creator is quite limitless. My mother is intelligent, transcendent, light-hearted, soft, untameable, unshakable. How dare I ever stop at beautiful? I'd just like to end this. I would just like to end this by saying, I barely leave the house, I'm not sleeping, I'm so traumatised, I just feel broken, but I will not be silenced. My message to those of you that choose to take the innocence from children, you are free to choose, but you are not free from the consequences of your choice. May we never forget the children that lost their lives at the hands of their abusers. May we all continue to give a voice to those we lost, those still suffering, and those who survived to fight for change. Thank you.
Yes, our massive thanks to all the thanks.
I just want to expose this very quickly because I know this camera's there. Our case is now being referred to in the papers as childhood regression therapy, false memory syndrome. I had legal documentation, signed legal documentation, proving that I did not receive child regression therapy, proving I do not have false memory syndrome. The public prosecutor refused to submit it. Our case is now being used in reference when in other cases where there's been claims of false memory syndrome. This is our mother. She is an evil monster, still free walking these streets. She is still free walking the streets. She is a serial child abuser. This woman is a serial child abuser that has got away with destroying lives. This is my brother who I was cleaning feces out of his mouth, his own feces out of his mouth at the age of 7 years old. The kids in class would laugh and say they could smell poo, and I'd laugh with them and have to pretend it was someone else because I was so embarrassed. My mother destroyed my brother's life. This is my dad. He came in court. But I was meant to have guilt trips. My dad didn't come to court, forced my brother into joining me in court. We meant to have lied. This woman's got off scot-free. It should not happen anymore. We've got to stop discrediting victims and silencing them in court and allowing these abusers to walk free in our streets. Thank you very much.
Thanks again, thanks everybody for coming and thanks you guys, much appreciated. And what we'll do is we'll try our best to get today viral. So what we want to do is to get
Content over everything. From your melody.
Come, man, say it straight. Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to ITV. So listen.
The Jordan's on his run up to.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
How are we doing? So, well, let's just. Can you guys hear us over the wind? Yeah. You're good. All right. So, Vinny, just tell us a little